live and direct from the Golden State. It's intelligent talk media, the Denice Gary Show. Now, here's Denice Gary.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Denice Gary Show. Happy Monday to everybody. I know it's Monday, but I always think to myself, acknowledge God in your day and He'll direct your paths. And I'm constantly looking for guidance. And on today's broadcast, there's so much that I would really love to discuss, but we've got an hour, so here we go. I want to start off with this. I just read a report, and I've also had it confirmed listening to people from the Immigration and Naturalization Service, ICE, our Border Patrol agents. They've indicated that already, think about this, already it's only June 10th, and we have had over 200,000 illegal immigrants rushing the border and coming into the United States. Now, if that isn't what the Webster's Dictionary might refer to as an invasion, I don't know what is, because there are smaller armored groups, there are smaller numbers of soldiers that can enter into an area, and it would be referred to as an invasion if they were 200,000 strong. And I want you to think about this. I was listening to an individual that's down there on the border talking about what's happening. He said that for every step taken by a child, that step means that a drug cartel or an illegal criminal network has been paid. Think about that. So little children, precious children from other countries, whether it be South America, Central America, Mexico, the Middle East, Asia, China, whatever country, we have people trying to get here illegally. Over 200,000 since December to June 10th, over 200,000 people from various countries around the world trying to get here. And of course, we know that many of these individuals do not speak English. So what does that mean to you, the taxpayer? It means you'll have to pay to teach them English. That's what the adult schools, that's what the Kern High School District does here in Kern County through Bakersfield Adult School and its satellite programs. That's what counties do up and down the state of California. That's what counties do in Arizona, in New Mexico, in Texas, around the country. Taxpayers pay for the classrooms, the teachers, the books, the electricity, the gas, the water, the administrators that run the program, the vice principals, the supervisors, the coordinators, the secretarial pool, and on it goes. So those 200,000 illegal immigrants that haven't bothered to observe the laws and the rule of law of the United States and come here illegally, you can call them undocumented migrants, you can call them undocumented immigrants, you can call them whatever you want, whatever is politically correct and suits you, but the bottom line is they've come here illegally. So, as you all heard, the president said to the government of Mexico, you start monitoring your southern border. So Mexico couldn't care less about overwhelming the taxpayers of California. Why people vacation down in Mexico and buy houses down there and support that regime, I don't know, because they're not a friend to the United States. So it took the leader of the free world who wants to protect the American taxpayer and protect our national security interests. Sorry about that. That's my computer. Protect the national security interests of the United States by saying to the president of Mexico, look, you're going to start paying tariffs and they're going to start at 5% today, Monday, June 10th. You know why it didn't happen? Because Mexico said, wow, the president says on June 10th those 5% added tariff, a tariff of 5% was going to go on goods coming from Mexico into the United States, and that's going to hurt business in Mexico. So they decided to do what? They decided to do what they should have done years ago, and that's put 6,000 6,000 soldiers down there on the border between Mexico and Guatemala, between its Mexico and its Central American states that are there bordering Mexico to come into Mexico. That's what they should have done years ago, because they never should have allowed people to come into Mexico and come into the United States illegally. But that's what Mexico was doing. They haven't been a friend to the United States, but they certainly want their poor, their uneducated masses, which is what's happened. And don't tell me that's a racist statement. That's a fact. I'm an educator. I know who's coming into the country because they're sitting in my classroom. And those people coming in are generally illiterate, even in their own language. A lot of times they've maybe had a third grade education. Some of them no schooling at all. There are those that have made it through elementary school. There are those that have made it through a junior high. And there are a few who've made it through high school in Mexico or another country. But by and large, that's not the vast majority. And so the taxpayers are footing the bill. And what happens then is the money they earn, oftentimes a substantial percentage goes back to their home country. It's not staying in America and growing our economy. This is why the president talked about merit-based immigration. If you want to come here, know the language, because the president, I'm sure, looks at the budgets here in California and in New Mexico and Arizona and Texas and thinks, good grief. All this money is being spent on building more schools and bigger classrooms and larger highways and freeways, and on it goes, in order to accommodate this so-called diversity agenda of the liberal leftists in America. But it's costing us a good deal of money, and so we see more and more people leaving the state of California. What does that do? Every time I hear somebody else leaving the state of California, what does it do? It shrinks the tax base. These are people that leave that are working people. They have money. They pay property taxes and every other kind of tax, payroll taxes. They pay the taxes on their car. They pay the tax to put oil to gasoline in their car. They pay the phone tax. They pay the water tax. They pay the PG&E tax, because California Democrats want us now to help support PG&E and keep that company alive as a major corporation. So now we're helping PG&E company stay alive and not go bankrupt, so that they can keep charging us higher and higher prices. That's what the Democrats are doing for you and I here in the state of California. So I think it's important that you understand that it's estimated now that by the end of 2019, we'll have over 1,072,000 migrants that are likely to enter the United States. And U.S. Customs and Border Protection on Wednesday revealed that May apprehensions topped 144,000 people. So I hope that all of you will call the president. Isaac, would you please put up the president's, let's put the comment line up. Ladies and gentlemen, that's 202 area code. Washington, D.C. is 202 area code 456-1111. I hope that all of you will thank the President of the United States for working to put working Americans who shoulder the greatest amount of taxes paid in the United States, trying to help protect our economy, trying to protect those low-skilled laborers here in the United States who have jobs taken from them by illegal aliens, who then can work and will work for cheaper wages, so that other American, that may be Hispanic, maybe Caucasian, maybe Black American, those individuals that are very low-skilled people that need those jobs won't have them, because somebody else, a dirty American business, will go out there and they'll pay an illegal who's already committed a crime, not only coming here illegally, but a second crime of identity fraud, right? Because a lot of them too are on welfare, so they'll buy a fake social security number or identity so they can get welfare benefits as well. So there's just so much going on, but I thought it was particularly concerning when you think about the children. This ICE agent says migrants trade children to get smuggling discounts on to get smuggling discounts from coyotes. And I shared this, I believe, last week. This was a report that came out on May 30th, less than 2 weeks ago. And it says coyotes are giving smuggling discounts to migrant parents who lend their children to other migrants at the border. I mean, what kind of a parent does that? What kind of a parent would say to a child, "Oh, you'll be okay, honey. You'll be okay. Just go with this stranger who you don't know, this stranger who might end up raping or molesting that little boy or girl. Go ahead. It'll be okay for you. Go." Can you imagine the PTSD, the trauma that child would face, having to walk off, wave goodbye to a mommy or a daddy, and go off with a stranger because their parent says, "Oh, okay, I can make some money from this. I can get a discount from a coyote." And so the child, and they say sometimes the real parent will go with the client of the coyote. Think about that. That sometimes happens, but sometimes it doesn't. And then the coyote will make the trip together. But we know that we've seen children with bogus birth certificates. Again, more fraud. More fraud. Somebody had to pay for that bogus birth certificate. And think about this. Like in Afghanistan, children that could be sold in the part of human trafficking. In Afghanistan, for example, children oftentimes don't have a birth certificate. Their mother is not identified. Women aren't valued in Afghanistan. And so even if there was a birth certificate, only the father's name might appear on it if they have a birth certificate, if the birth didn't take place at home, and maybe they were from a wealthy family that isn't likely then maybe to have their child involved in human trafficking. But think about that. Think about the children from some Muslim countries like Afghanistan, where the mother's name isn't even on the birth certificate because, after all, she's a woman, right? So they can't connect that child with his or her mother. And then again, there might not be a birth certificate at all. I've known people, I just was talking to a man from Afghanistan that came by to visit the other day, and I had asked him how old he was now. And he says, "Well, I'm not sure because, he didn't have a birth certificate." So he doesn't exactly know what month and what day, and he has a general idea from what his mother said about in terms of what year he was born. But things aren't like they are here in America, where you can go down and, get your birth certificate and know exactly what day, what minute, on what month and what year you were born, and what hospital and what city, what county, what state. I mean, these things are all available to you and I. We take them for granted, but other people don't have that kind of access to that data because they might have been born, at home on a farm or on a ranch or God knows where. So anyway, I think it's really interesting. I was reading about I don't know if I have it in the stack, but ICE agents have been busy buying tens of thousands of diapers. Can you believe that? So right now, DHS chief says there's 80,000 migrants in custody. When was this? This was back in May too. 80,000 migrants in custody, 100,000 more approaching, which is why President Trump decided to do the the tariff, put up tariffs. But I just couldn't believe the amount of money that taxpayers are now spending, not just on food, but on diapers. Think about it. Diapers, medicine, water, food, education, housing, clothes. And that's what we're paying for. We're paying for Mexico to break international law and not prevent people from entering in their country. Well, that's not breaking international law. That's just breaking Mexico's law, because Mexico has laws too regarding entering into that country. You can, if an American goes into Mexico unlawfully, rest assured they'll be in prison. But if someone from a Central American country or South American country that's working their way to the U.S. border, are they going to be arrested? Not likely. The Mexican government, the police, the military just helps them along until they get to the U.S. border. But before, if an American or a Canadian or a European were to go to Mexico unlawfully, guess what? They're in jail. And God help them. And so as the leftists and people talk about diversity in America, yep, that diversity in America is leading to higher and higher taxpayer dollars, higher and higher taxes paid by the American citizen. Something to think about, ladies and gentlemen. Let's thank the president. And let's call your member in Congress. The Capitol switchboard number there in Washington, D.C. is 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. My producer tells me he's got the number up on the screen for those of you that are watching on YouTube or Facebook. Please call that number. Would you tell your member of Congress, your member in the Senate, to please pass a law ending the loopholes, making it possible for families to stay together, not here in the U.S., but in Mexico. We don't need hundreds of thousands of people invading the United States. Yes, I realize that you leftists don't like that word, but that's what it is. That's what it is. Invading the United States unlawfully. We have the rule of law in this country. We're a sovereign nation. And until we cease to be a sovereign nation, until we cease to have the rule of law, and we're a banana republic with a dictatorship, those laws still need to be upheld. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got to take a quick commercial break and pay the bills. We'll be right back right here on the Denise Gary Show.
Tell you about a place I love to go, Frugatti's Italian Restaurant. Very few locations here provide seating outside in front of a fabulous water fountain with an atmosphere that is reminiscent to me of eating outdoors in Venice. This is real Italian food by real Italians. And what makes it even more so is owner Ralph Frugoletti, who nearly a quarter century ago brought a wood fire oven from Milan, Italy to make, like his mother, fresh homemade bread and pizzas. Moreover, Frugatti's Restaurant offers you not only the very best in Southern Italian cooking, even importing the finest ingredients for authentic Italian food, including a fitness menu. After all, Ralph has represented the United States and Italy, competing in the Master Championship Games. He knows all the right food for good fitness, so check out the menu. After today's broadcast, run over to Frugatti's Italian Restaurant and Catering at 600 Coffee Road here in Bakersfield. And after a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday service, stop into Frugatti's for a great lunch. I'll see you there, and tell Mr. Ralph Frugoletti that Denise sent you. Salute. Bon appetito.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so thrilled I've got the owner of Sculpt 365 Fitness here with me today, Craig Jansen, Navy veteran. Craig,
Tell the audience out there why everybody in town needs to come up over here and join.
Well, Sculpt 365 is a 24-hour club, so we never close, unlike a lot of other clubs here in town. Additionally, our club is always super clean, and one of the things that you're going to find here is a different environment where we strive to give you a VIP experience here. So we want to get to know you. We want to know your story. We want to know about you and how we can help you succeed and meet all of your fitness goals.
Wonderful, ladies and gentlemen. Come on down to Sculpt 365 Fitness. You're located right here on Brim Hall. Tell us your other location.
We have another location up in Tehachapi. And then our third location here in town is also located over on Chester and Columbus in the Food Mac Shopping Center.
Thank you so much, Craig. You have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you.
Just a great conversation with the ZOA director in Jerusalem in Israel this morning. And I don't have audio for you. I like Isaac. Maybe Isaac could put up the picture of the director DAUBE there running the ZOA in Israel. But I wanted to chat with him for a few minutes on this law that has been introduced in Congress. And this is something else that I'm going to ask my producer to put up the numbers for the President of the United States and also for Congress, because I'd like you to contact the President and Congress about this. So this is what's happened. I believe it was last year, the President of the United States said, okay, all the billions of dollars, millions, now it's in the billions, that the United States has given to the Palestinian Authority, which is AKA the Palestine Liberation Organization. It's a group that sponsors terrorism by Arab Muslims who say that they were living in the Gaza Strip or in Judea and Samaria or what is today Israel during the Palestine Mandate. So, the Palestine Mandate, that territory that was controlled by the British. The United States was not an imperialist army in World War I. We just fought to win the war for democracy and peace, right? That's why Woodrow Wilson said we were going to wars to make the world safe for democracy. So it had nothing to do with imperialism. I don't know why liberals always have to point to the U.S. as imperialist nation. The U.S. wasn't involved in carving up the Middle East, but the British did take control of the Palestine Mandate. That was an area that includes what is Jordan today and what is Israel. So the British, in carving it up, gave about, I would say, 23% of that territory to Jewish people. They gave the vast majority, like 77, 78% to Muslim Arabs. So that territory, the majority of went to Muslim Arabs. They were referred to as Palestinians. Jews were referred to as Palestinians, the Jewish Palestinians during that mandate period from about 1917, 18 to, for the Jews, it was like 1948. For the Arab Muslims, the British gave the Arab Muslims in what is today Jordan, it used to be called Transjordan, British ceded that over to them around 1922. So they gave independence to the Muslims early on. There seemed to be, an anti-Semitic vein running through the British government. And so think about this. So we had Jewish Palestinians and we had Muslim Palestinians. And President Trump said, okay, well, these Muslim Palestinians continue to use money that the United States gives to their cause, which I don't know why we ever started giving to their cause, because Jordan is a majority Muslim Palestinian state. But anyway, the United States government years ago started giving money to these Muslim Arabs because they were committing acts of terrorism. They said they were having difficulty resettling themselves in other Muslim Arab countries. Why, I don't know, because, only if you speak to a Muslim Arab will they tell you. But the bottom line is those Muslim Arabs that were living in what is today Israel oftentimes only went there looking for work. It's like people from Mexico or other countries coming here to look for work illegally. That's what happened. And so the British hired a lot of these people because they could do low-level menial jobs for the British mandatory government that was in what is today Israel and Jerusalem. So they hired these people at low wages and they did their menial labor. And so anyway, so there's a bill. So getting to the present. So there has been a bill that was introduced by a Democrat, of course a Democrat, Nita Lowey. She's a Democrat from New York, and they say she's pro-Israel, but bottom line, how could anybody be pro-Israel that stands for the two-state solution? Because the two-state solution says Israel now has to give away more land to Muslim Arabs. Well, look what happened when Israel gave the Gaza Strip during George W. Bush's administration. All Israel has suffered is terrorist attack after terrorist attack. I mean, you put yourself in Israel's position. You have a family, you go to bed at night, and you've got to have your rifle underneath your bed. Maybe a knife in your bedside table or lamp table or night table. You've got to have your ammunition right there at your bedside, because if you're living anywhere close to a border area, there could be a tunnel from Jordan or the Gaza Strip or from Lebanon or from Syria that will enter into your community, and terrorists will come up from underneath the ground from their tunnel that they've built. They'll go break into your home and they'll kill you and your family. You have to understand, and Israel and the United States has given these Palestinians, Muslim Arabs, lots and lots and lots of money, because the idea was they need the money to build up their economy so they can build hospitals and schools and live nice lives and have economic development. That's always been the plan. So Israel does a tremendous amount in terms of giving money and resources and food and medicine and all kinds of supplies. So does the U.S. So the Trump administration, President Trump, he got elected, and he says, he sits down, he has a conversation with Mahmoud Abbas. You'll recall that during the president's first year. The president said to Mahmoud Abbas, the leader of the Palestinians in Judea and Samaria, what was otherwise known as the West Bank, he says, you know what, you need to stop spending U.S. dollars and other people's dollars that are given to you, paying terrorists money to commit acts of terror. You need to knock it off. The United States taxpayer isn't going to keep giving you money to pay salaries for people that want to commit murder. So Mahmoud Abbas, says face to face to the president. I guess he gave him a nod, and so he goes back to Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, to his PLO, Palestine Liberation Organization headquarters, and keeps paying terrorists money. So the president said last year, you know what, we're done with that. We're not going to give him any more money, because Mahmoud Abbas, the Muslim Arabs, they do whatever they want. And in fact, I was looking at this scripture in Genesis, chapter 16, verse 12, talking about the descendants of Ishmael, i.e., someone that was considered to be the father of the Arab nation, just like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's the father, Abraham being the father of the Jewish people, and Isaac and Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, who basically fathered the sons which became the 12 tribes of Israel, right? So there's a little biblical history. But Ishmael and his seed, future generations from the seed of Ishmael, it says, if you believe the Bible at all, If you don't, you can zone out for a moment. But anyway, chapter 16, verse 12 says, and talking about Ishmael's seed, that he will be a wild man. He will be a wild man. That's what it says. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. And of course, we see all over the world where the Arab nation has gone, where the Muslim religion has followed. Whether you think it's politically correct or not, Islam is an ideology. And so where the Arabs have gone and they've taken Islam with them, this ideology with them, it's led to terrorist attacks. Whether we're talking about, India, or the Uyghurs in China, or the Chechens in Russia, or the Muslim Brotherhood and Al-Qaeda and ISIS here in the United States, or Hezbollah in Lebanon, or Syria, wherever they are, wherever they go. Name me a nation and I'll cite you a terrorist attack, except for Japan. They don't allow. Japan's very closed on immigration. Very politically incorrect, by the way. They were asked to take in, during our fight against ISIS, they were asked to take in these Muslim migrants from Arab Muslim countries. They weren't interested. They weren't going to play ball. So Japan doesn't suffer from Islamic terrorist attacks. Just an FYI, because they wouldn't take any. They wouldn't take them in. Anyway, but so Congress has introduced this bipartisan bill to aid Palestinians for a two-state solution. I was talking to Jeff about that this morning, and he was saying, he said to me, well, maybe 10% of Israelis even support a two-state solution. I mean, the Israeli people, intelligent people, have looked at history, right? And so, since before the Jewish state in 1948, every time you get a large Arab Muslim neighborhood or community or city, what happens? Terrorists come out of those cities at night and they'll commit an act of terrorism. I mean, the Israeli police are basically counterterrorism agents. I mean, they have to be counterterrorism experts. I mean, their training is way beyond what we might think of somebody from the sheriff's department or police department here. More and more our people from police departments and sheriff's departments are getting that training, but the Israelis have had it for a long time going forward, because their police really have to be like army. They have to protect against terrorist attacks all day long, all night long, every day in Israel, period. So, of course, this bill that I couldn't believe Senator Lindsey Graham is supporting, Senator Lindsey Graham, you know him, the Republican from South Carolina. He chairs the Foreign Operations Subcommittee of the Appropriations Committee. And this other Republican senator, Cory Gardner, Republican from Colorado, and then, of course, the Democrats. Of course, the Democrats. They want the U.S. taxpayer to give $50 million for the next 5 years to what's called a, quote, partnership fund for peace. Doesn't that sound lovely? A partnership fund for peace. Oh, how very nice. I just love the sound of that. I love the birds singing and the sun shining too, and I like for there to be peace in the Middle East. But $50 million of taxpayer money for the next 5 years, for what? So you have to put it in context. If the majority of the Israeli people do not want to give away more land, if they look at Jordan, if they look across their border and they know that ISIS and Al-Qaeda, the Muslim Brotherhood, Hezbollah, the Palestinian terrorist groups, Jordan being a Palestinian majority country, if the Israelis are looking across their border into Jordan or looking to the north in Lebanon or northeast to Syria or looking in the south towards Hamas and the Gaza Strip, really? Do you think the Jewish people are so damn dumb that they would say, oh, let's give away more land to Muslim Arabs, let's have a two-state solution. The Jews look at that and they say, well, what do you call Gaza? Gaza is controlled by Muslim Arabs. Why can't that be their state if they want a two-state solution? Why can't Jordan be their two-state solution? And I just hope, in light of the fact, and wouldn't you know, by the way, Bernie Sanders running for president, he's catering to the Meretz Party, M-E-R-E-T-Z, the Meretz Party in Israel. He's catering to them and saying, why doesn't the President of the United States support the two-state solution? What's wrong with him? And the President of the United States is thinking, he's probably looked at the whole situation there and said, really, let's see. I had a conversation with Mahmoud Abbas. I told him, look, you stop funding terrorism and we'll keep funneling U.S. foreign aid to you. You don't stop paying terrorist salaries, giving the families of terrorists money when their family is dedicated to terrorism. If you don't knock it off, we're going to withhold U.S. aid. If that wasn't the most intelligent thing a president has done since the state of Israel has been established, I don't know what is. But President Trump gets it, and you need to thank him. President's number, 202-456-1111. You call Lindsey Graham. You call your member of Congress. For our area, it's the House Minority Leader, Kevin McCarthy. You can call him. Call the Capitol switchboard number, 202-224-3121. Give Kevin McCarthy a number. Give our senators Kamala Harris and Dianne Feinstein. You say, oh, well, they're dirty Democrats. Well, yeah, I know they're going to support funding measures, but you need to let them know that you're a voter and you're watching what they do. And if they vote for a bill that's going to put $50 million back in the hands of Palestinians that use money for terrorism, they will not get your vote. You make that crystal clear to them. And you might say to them, the Israeli people, they don't need another Muslim Arab state. There's already 24 Muslim Arab states in the Middle East. And they're difficult neighbors. They're very difficult neighbors that are involved in acts of bloodshed and barbarism and everything else. We just have been fighting over there, fighting back ISIS that grew up in Syria and Iraq. I mean, Israel's in a very dangerous neighborhood. Think about your city. Think about your town, having those kinds of neighbors surrounding your community. Think how safe, think how unsafe you would feel. Think about that. And think about how an Israeli, and we have American Israelis there, we have Christians there, and believe me, they're targets as well. Christians and Jews are targets. Ladies and gentlemen, my producer is saying to me, you got to take a commercial break. I've got to take a commercial break. We'll be right back after this.
President Trump has correctly stated that economic security is national security, and in the Tehachapi Mountains of Kern County resides a United States defense contractor, Anates Products. Here is the Silicon Valley of the aerospace industry, right here in East Kern. Anates Products is a forward-leaning manufacturer and distributor of hardware sold to major defense and aerospace companies. We're talking about Boeing, Lockheed Martin, United Technologies, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon General Electric, and on the list goes, as well as to every United States ally worldwide, including Israel, America's most important strategic ally in the Middle East. And for everything that flies, Anates Products is providing the parts. And with me today is the president of Anates Products, Scott Baker. Hi, Scott.
How you doing?
Scott, tell us why you believe this corner of Kern County is the hub of the aerospace industry.
Well, this portion of Southern California here out in the Antelope Valley, it contains, some of the most cutting edge technology going on in aviation today. We have some of the UCAS programs with unmanned technologies going on. We have Edwards Air Force Base out here who's doing continual testing in their area. We have the Naval Weapons Station up there at China Lake doing some fantastic cutting edge stuff, cruise missile technology, and those things are going on. We have Scale Composites locally doing a lot of composite technology, which is new. We have SpaceX, which is a private one, putting a private entity putting things into space now. This area is the growth center for aviation's future, and this is the area I think that as a nation we need to be concentrating some of our effort and taking this technology. And as we all know, with the space program from Apollo years ago, out of these technologies, we the private sector are going to reap some of the benefits of that.
Thank you, Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Baker, president of Anita's Products. Anita's Products, located in the beautiful mountains of Tehachapi, California, in eastern Kern County, is home to some of the most innovative and specialized technologies in the world, including those at the U.S. Naval Air Warfare Center, Weapons Division at China Lake, Edwards Air Force Base, as well as Stratolaunch, launching satellites capable of delivering multiple orbits in a single flight to space. And it is Anita's Products that has provided the manufactured devices. And the president, Scott Baker of Anita's Products, Marine Corps veteran, reactivated on 9/11 to monitor threats to the homeland, is carrying on a tradition of providing for the security of the United States by manufacturing every kind of fastener on anything that flies, as well as providing a full testing destructive laboratory. Contact Anita's Products, now in business for 30 years, at 661-822-6873. Located at 1314 Goodrich Drive in Tehachapi for your manufacturing and testing needs today. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are with Barb Reynolds Wallstrom today. She is the owner and operator of Tehachapi Court Services, serving the entire Kern County area. Welcome, Barb.
Thank you, Denise.
You've been at the top of your game in terms of legal matters for many, many years. And I want you to tell the audience today, what is the difference between a legal document assistant to pro per litigants as opposed to a paralegal? What's the difference?
A legal document assistant such as I has been involved with the legal work for many years, as a matter of fact, decades. And I feel quite competent and capable of helping people throughout Kern County for legal needs that they really need assistance with and can't afford an attorney.
Right.
So I'm here in Bakersfield 3 and 4 times a week. If people need me, they can call me. If they can't get to me, and why is that? Because people have to work during the day. The clients I serve are working people.
And you go to Shafter and Worcester, and you're there in Tehachapi.
I'll go there.
You're just everywhere.
I'm everywhere. And Denise, I'm not tied to a 9-to-5 environment.
Yeah.
I go where my clients need me at whatever hour. I love doing that, and they can call me. I will come to them. They can call me at whatever hour aside from 9 to 5 because people need answers and they need them quickly.
Barb Reynolds Wallstrom is so passionate about what she does. She loves it. She's been in the business for decades, and she's the gal you want to call. You help people handle their adoptions, right?
Adoptions.
And
bankruptcies, also divorces, unlawfully tainters, which are evictions, conservatorships, guardianships, living trusts. I pretty much run the gamut after 47 years.
So, how do people reach you, Barb?
They can contact me at area code 661-805-3306.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to call Tehachapi Court Services today. Talk to Barb. She can be reached at 661-805-3306. It's there on the screen. Give her a call. She will work with you hand in glove.
Right.
Hand in glove.
I walk every step of the way with my clients.
Excellent. She'll work with you and get the job done.
Please share this broadcast out to everyone. Let them know this show is available on iTunes, on Windows, on podcast apps. please let them know it's on the YouTube channel, the Denice Gary Show YouTube channel. Denice is spelled with a C, Gary, Gary. Of course, on Facebook, if you're looking at this show on Facebook. Also know Talk America Live .us plays my shows on the weekends for me, Saturday and Sunday. TalkAmericaLive.us. That's an internet radio network. I want to get to something now that the top commander of U.S. forces in the Middle East told an NBC news anchor on Thursday that he believes that the Iranians and Iranian proxies or Iranian proxies, that would be Hezbollah, the Party of God, that could be Hamas, the Islamic resistance movement in the Gaza Strip, that could be the Palestinian Islamic Jihad groups, that could be any number of groups, the Houthis in Yemen, and it could be a host of groups. So anyway, the top commander of U.S. forces in the Middle East, Marine General Frank McKenzie, said that he expects an attack at any moment with respect to our forces and Israel in the Middle East. And I wasn't sure if you heard that, and I wanted to ask you to pray. You know, we just commemorated D-Day and celebrated our veterans and those also that were lost on D-Day, the 75th anniversary of D-Day. We commemorated and celebrated the tremendous war effort and sacrifice of those of our U.S. soldiers. And I'd like you to be thinking and praying for our U.S. soldiers in the Middle East, around the Middle East, our intelligence agents that are out there working in the field, that are field operatives in the region. They're involved in very dangerous work to bring a lot of this intel to people like the Marine General Frank McKenzie. He said he doesn't believe that the threat from Iran has diminished at all. He said he was heartened by the efforts of the Iraqi government to protect American forces and its allies in the region, because Iran has various malicious squadrons in the region and in Iraq, and those Iranian militias continually threaten American forces because we've both been fighting ISIS, and but of course Iran wants to control Iraq. And it's important that the U.S. prevents the Iranian takeover of Iraq, for Iran to have a larger footprint, the size of both Iran and Iraq. And remember, the Iranians fought the Iraqis for almost a decade, if you recall, a couple of decades ago, in the 1980s. I believe it was the 80s. In fact, Iran used to send children into the minefields to find the mines. And of course, if a child blew up, they knew there was a mine there, right? So they sent the children in that wanted to die for Allah. It's all in the cause of Islam. And so I want you to just pray for wisdom. I know our president understands this threat. The Israelis understand the threat from Iran. Remember, it was Barack Hussein Obama and the Democrats that leaked top secret Israeli information to our nation, to the Democrats who spread it around the world, because at one point Israel was going to go in and unilaterally strike, surgically pinpoint strikes at Iranian ballistic missile systems that could launch a ballistic missile with a nuclear warhead there on top. Israel was going to take care of that for us, but Barack Hussein Obama, he was busy working a deal with the Iranians, and he didn't want the Israelis to take out their ballistic missile program or any of their nuclear weapon sites. So the Israelis didn't, because all of their information was leaked by Barack Hussein Obama and his team. So that's now endangered the rest of the world today in 2019. Thank you, Democrats. And it's endangered American forces in the region. Thank you, Democrats. And so it's really important for us to pray. McKenzie says that the threat from the Iranians is evolving, that they are, quote unquote, probing for weaknesses all the time. Quote, I would say the threat has probably evolved in certain ways, even as our defensive posture has changed and become more aggressive. And again, he goes on to say, but the threat is very real, and he wouldn't go into specifics about the numerous threats, the number of threats, or the specifics on the nature of those threats. But the fact that the Marine general that controls things in terms of U.S. forces in the Middle East came out and said that, I thought it was worth sharing. So anyway, just say a prayer. Keep our leaders in prayer. I wanted to talk about, how much time do I have left? About 10 minutes? Is that about 8? 8. Okay, so, we just mentioned D-Day, and I read an article by a European. It was published in IsraelNationalNews.com, and it had to do with D-Day. It says President Donald Trump, he talks about him, celebrating U.S. veterans that were gathered in Normandy. I don't know if you watched the president and his speech, but he would turn around and stand and look at, and it looked like he was making eye contact with every World War II veteran there that was sitting on the platform behind him. I know at one point he went to hug somebody, shaking all their hands, and I believe there were 60 there. And this European wrote an article, and he said that the very memory of Omaha Beach is far and away, that Europe is imbued with what he calls a quote-unquote shameful anti-Americanism and anti-Zionism. And Zionism refers to Jewish independent statehood. And he says the new religion of Europe is climate change. That the Europeans have abandoned their borders. It's called the European Union. You've heard of the European Union. He says they've abandoned their borders and their sovereignty, which I think is why Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, this is a Muslim Arab that is mayor of the city, and of course crime has risen exponentially in London as a result of his leadership as the mayor there. And I think this is one of the reasons why he hates Trump so much, because this is what diversity has led to in Europe. Diversity has led to a situation in which crime has increased. They've seen a lot of Muslim migrants flood into Europe, and as a result, there are Muslim grooming gangs. These Muslim grooming gangs are involved in the rape of these young Caucasian, quote-unquote, Christian girls. I don't know if they're Christian or not, but, they're considered to be Christian by Muslims if they're living there in Europe. If they're white, they're considered Christian European young ladies. And so, America and Israel have become indispensable nations that although they were so important in terms of maintaining European security, they're burned at the stake. I mean, the effigies of our president, of Benjamin Netanyahu, of the flags, they're burned at the stake, not only in Tehran, but in European capitals. And I thought he made an excellent point. He said at the end of his article, he says, weakness is a stimulus for anti-Americanism. Weakness is a stimulus for anti-Americanism. And he says Europe is weak. The Americans have understood this, and they're leaving Europe to its fate. He said, we, Europeans, will regret it. Interesting take. President Trump, I hope you'll give him a call. I thought I was going back, and I was reading his remarks for the 75th commemoration of D-Day, and this president is really a culture warrior as well. I mean, unemployment is at the lowest it's been in probably the history of America. I think it's all the way down to 3%. So unemployment is way, way down in this country. Wages continue to rise. The economy is very strong. Now the United States is a net exporter of oil. He's been building up the United States military. He's put the steel industry back into business. He's put petroleum companies really back into business. He's doing so much to put American people, taxpayers, businesses first. If that is dirty, if putting Americans first is dirty, I'm sorry, Democrats. I'm sorry, liberal progressives. I'm sorry, leftists. But the fact that Democrats have turned the word nationalism, American first, into something dirty and ugly, I think is shameful. And I want my producer, I wanted him, there are 3 little short, very short, like a minute clips that I wanted you to hear where, I heard and the reason why I want you to hear them is because I noticed after the president's speech on D-Day that the Democrats have come out and really, for the first time since President Donald J. Trump was elected into office, they actually praised the president for an excellent speech. But the president was clever, and I believe that in these 3 areas that you're about to listen to, he brought back that theme of our Judeo-Christian culture and of nationalism and America first. He just didn't use those words. And the first clip that I'd like you to hear is the president talking about, is that these men were young, these men enlisted, that many of them were volunteers, they enlisted their lives. They enlisted their lives in a great crusade, one of the greatest of all times. Their mission is the story of an epic battle and the ferocious, eternal struggle between good and evil. Now that theme, great crusade and eternal struggle between good and evil, is really an important cultural statement. Would you play that first clip, please?
When you were young, these men enlisted their lives in a great crusade, the greatest of all times. Their mission is the story of an epic battle and the ferocious eternal struggle between good and evil. On the 6th of June, 1944, they joined a liberation force of awesome power and breathtaking scale. After months of planning, the Allies had chosen this ancient coastline to mount their campaign to vanquish the wicked tyranny of the Nazi Empire from the face of the earth. The battle began in the skies above us. In those first tense midnight hours, 1,000 aircraft roared overhead with 17,000 Allied airborne troops preparing to leap into the darkness beyond these trees. Then came dawn. The enemy who had occupied these heights saw the largest naval armada in the history of the world. Just a few miles offshore were 7,000 vessels bearing 130,000 warriors. They were the citizens of free and independent nations united by their duty to their compatriots into millions yet unborn.
So, ladies and gentlemen, did you catch that? I thought that was a nod to the pro-life groups of America. He said there were 7,000 vessels bearing 130,000 warriors. There were 17,000 Allied airborne troops preparing to leap into the darkness. And he says they were citizens of free and independent countries. There goes nationalism, that theme, nationalism. Citizens of free and independent nations, united by their duty to their compatriots and to millions yet unborn. I thought that was a nod to the pro-life groups. And I thought it was a nod when he said citizens of free and independent nations to nationalisms. The next 1 minute clip I wanted you to hear is he talks about these men running through the fires of hell. And they're moved by a force, he says, no weapon could destroy. The fierce patriotism of a free, proud, and sovereign people. Sovereign people, a free, proud, sovereign people. Again, another nod to nationalism, to our liberty, our democracy, and our self-rule. Play it, Isaac.
These men ran through the fires of hell, moved by a force no weapon could destroy. Free, proud, and sovereign people. They battled not for control and domination, but for liberty, democracy, and self-rule.
Ladies and gentlemen, so now this final one, it's about a minute. It says, the blood they spilled, the tears they shed, the lives they gave, the sacrifice they made, they didn't just win a battle and they didn't just win a war. This is, I thought, extremely important. He says they won a future for our nation. A future for our nation. They won the survival of our civilization. What is our civilization? Our civilization is Judeo-Christian civilization. Judeo-Christian civilization based on the values of loving God, loving your neighbor as yourself, the golden rule, toleration and understanding, doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. I just thought, the fact that he said they showed us the way to love, cherish, and defend our way of life for centuries to come. It's a cultural statement. It's a statement about the exceptionalism. I'll never forget I was in working for this one particular school. The principal said, I don't know what makes America exceptional. This is what makes America exceptional. Is that we are Judeo-Christian civilization that provided a future for people to embrace the freedoms of liberty and democracy, free speech, press, the right to petition the government, freedom of religion. This is what makes us exceptional. And I'd like you to hear these final words by the president, again, commemorating the 75th commemoration of D-Day.
No less extraordinary in peace. They built families. They built industries. They built a national culture that inspired the entire world. In the decades that followed, America defeated communism, secured civil rights, revolutionized science, launched a man to the moon, and then kept on pushing to new frontiers. And today, America is stronger than ever before.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed today's broadcast. I hope you'll thank the president for his tremendous contribution, again, not only to getting Americans back to work, not only helping put America first, getting our military back on its feet, but of course, being a culture warrior and standing up for our values there on the beaches of Normandy, France, for D-Day, and for all those visiting from around the world, standing up for the values that have made America so great around the world. Again, thank you for listening. This is Denice, signing off.
Thank you for listening to The Denice Gary Show. Intelligent talk media.